Gary Gensler, how was his name? He was very against the crypto industry, and just was not a fan. And so when you're the Securities and Exchange Commission and you're a Charles Schwab or a BlackRock, any of these huge financial institutions that really impact how markets work, they weren't really all feed into the whole crypto industry, whether it's coins or the blockchain technology around it. Maybe the blockchain technology, they were investing there. Or the crypto itself, it was just something they weren't really all feet in, because they couldn't. Why put money into something that wouldn't be approved to be offered?
There's nothing tangible holding on to any gold.
Tell me more.
So crypto is worth what I think it's worth. And like the US 30, it's worth what the market says it's worth. There's nothing tangible holding on to it. If I bought gold, I have something I can hold on to. I get an ingot, I get a coin, I get whatever. With Bitcoin, it's just a number. Everything's electronic on it. That's why people are afraid of it. Monkey.
Yeah, I don't think you're far off there. You can't fold it and put it in your pocket. You can't touch it and give it to somebody else like you can a dollar bill, right? So that's what's made it very difficult for people to understand and appreciate. And it's not going anywhere. And so unlike the previous administration, the Trump administration, they put in, here, let me share this as a kind of a frame the conversation here. Let's see. It's role to avoid Trump's showdown, because as soon as Trump was going to take over, he was going to step down, because he knew the incoming administration had very different views of how crypto should be regulated and supported or not supported. So the crypto industry, if you will, they were super excited to get this guy out. Matter of fact, you could argue one of the reasons why Trump was able to win the election was through support of crypto enthusiasts, because they wanted a change there. And he catered to that very much on his campaign trail. Anyways, so this guy's out, new guy in, pro crypto, and you've seen how markets have reacted. And this even shows up with the different offerings that these large institutions like BlackRock, Charles Schwab, and all the rest, products that target that industry and target crypto coins. And the top ones mostly, of course, that whole industry has been blowing up as a result.
Yeah. You know, I always said, oh, if it ever gets down below 50, I'll buy it, or 40, I'll buy it, or 30, I'll buy it. And then it went down, and now it's worth what, like 100 grand?
I think it went up as high as 125, I think, and went down to like 80. So if we're talking about Bitcoin in particular, it was pretty volatile, right? It's all over the place a little bit compared to a U.S. Treasury bill. Two complete different animals, and they perform very differently.
It's 90, 30, 382, and at its height in September was 122.
It's at 90 right now. There you go.
How about that?
Well, let's look at this.
Oh, I see it.
So let's look at the max. Obviously, nothing up and down. Now, here's what's changed in the last couple of years. One, you had the change in administrations, right? A new administration with a very different attitude towards this whole industry. You also have state pension programs along with large institutional players, and soon there's going to be regulation. This stuff's pending. Changes to allow 401k providers to offer some of these alternative assets in their menu of options. And so I just don't see the money slowing down going into this asset. It only seems to be increasing.
That could prop up the values artificially, just like that China stuff.
The difference here is, in Bitcoin's case specifically, is that there is a fixed amount of coins. There's no way to make more. The takeaway is there's no way to make more. There is a fixed amount of coins out there, right? At some point, that it will drive the value in a certain way, in my opinion. So we'll see. Time will tell. And it's going to go from there. But my main point is that the market adoption of Bitcoin is not going down. It's only increasing. And this is not a recommendation to buy or sell or anything like that.
Performance is no indicator of future.
That's right. I'm not saying, okay, go rush out and buy it, but I will say the market adoption and the amount of people starting to hold Bitcoin is not going down.
Yeah, and more people want it, and the more people look at it, the more value it is. Yeah, I get it.
And it's a challenge. I think I don't discount the advice of only invest in things you understand. There's that too. I think that's important as well. And again, I'm not saying this is advice for somebody to go out and do it. I guess sector or area of wealth creation that's happening between that and artificial intelligence, what's going on there. Like, it's just some fascinating areas that 30 years ago have been like, what are you talking about? What are you investing in?
And the naysayers on AI, oh, Terminator, they're gonna take over the world. Everything's disruptive, right? And you're dystopian when you think Terminator, but AI is going to happen. And there's a lot of things that a lot of people do today that will be taken over that are mundane, useless tasks that you can have them do. And you can program it yourself. And that's what's beautiful about it.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting world over the next 10 to 20 years as all that stuff starts to ripple out and change and scale. It's going to be super interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I get these ads for AI trading bots, but it's $200-300 a month. And no, not going to do that yet. Once that market comes down or commoditizes, then I'll do it. But right now I'm doing that US 30 trading. It takes me like 10, 15, 20 minutes a day to look at it and watch what's going on. I'm sure I'll figure out my stride. A couple of buddies have done it. One started doing this 5 years ago. So the other thing too is like when you do the scalping, you have to realize that you're betting that the market's going to go up, because traditionally in the last 5 years, we've had a great market going up and up. And you have to train yourself to be able to sell. And that's something that's totally anti my brain. I just don't know how to do that, right? I couldn't explain to you how to short a stock. I understand it kind of, but I couldn't explain it. So if I can't explain it, I'm not going to put money behind it. And there's times in there I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then I should have sold instead of buy positions.
The jargon makes it more confusing.
Sorry?
Like I say, the jargon around it can make it sound confusing too.
This is the system that I'm using, MetaTrader 4, and there's MetaTrader 5, and there's a bunch of different things. These are basically day trader things where you plug in where you want the stop loss and the profit and all that stuff, and you can bet. This is gambling. I don't care how you look at it. It's gambling.
Yeah.
And I'm not against it. It's just I got to be very aware of that. But like I know somebody that's made like $1 million doing this.
Yep.
The guy that's in charge of this is upwards close to managing $100 million worth of assets doing this. And he started off with 45-60 million, which again, it's not. I don't know why I keep doing this. And it's just something fun to look at. It's something for me to learn. One of the guys I served with, he's a gun nut. He has his own gun store. He has all the licenses known to man to buy, sell, carry, fix, mill, all that stuff. He's got all sorts of whiz-bang cool things that I'm not allowed to even talk about in his store. You can sell any kind of firearm in California. So he is straight lace, clean nose, above board, everything. And last June, I went down to Costa Rica with my buddy Henry, who I also served with, and we had a 6-hour layover in LAX. I called up my buddy. I'm like, hey, we're going to be here for 6 hours. You want to hang out and have a beer or dinner or something? We can just chill out and meet. So we all caught up. Now, Henry is a retired deputy. This guy lives up in Sonoma. He retired a couple of years ago, and now he works for a gun club. It's an exclusive gun club, and he does it for fun, not even for the money. He does it because he enjoys guns.
Yeah.
He knows guns, right? So he teaches billionaires how to shoot guns, and he sells them like $6,000-7,000 shotguns every time he goes up, whatever, right? So I never put two and two together. I knew Eric was talking about the shooting thing. I never really understood what he was trying to get to. And then we sat down at a restaurant and he started pitching this idea. I'm like, oh, Henry does this. And so now they're talking, we're doing this, and we're looking at buying property, 600 acres, and we're trying to figure out how to fund it and get income in right away. And as a matter of fact, he came in today saying, we have this artifact that we found from World War II and it's worth X amount of money. Do you think we can trade it for the land? I'm like, oh, well, it's not unheard of, but let's see. And now it's like syndications. Like, that's a natural thing. One of the things you and I were talking about a few minutes ago was me investing in syndications where these guys are bringing up 10, 20, 30, $40 million to buy property and do something with it and then selling it off or doing what have you, right? But this is kind of a different thing where it's more like a business idea of a syndication where we buy the land and we put agriculture on it, we put alternative power on it, and then we put shooting class eventually. And if that doesn't work, then we can entitle it and put parcels on it and build houses on it. So it is what it is. And it's like when you're on top of one of the hills, you can actually see Magic Mountain. That's how close it is.
Cool.
You're probably really familiar with that area, right?
Yeah, I just go up and down that area so often, but I know exactly the area you're talking about. Yeah. I don't think I realized that was considered or zoned agriculture, but it makes sense. That's why it hasn't been developed.
As urbanization pushes outward
Yeah.
and you get a rezoning agreement, that problem has already been solved. The other parts are financing this and trying to figure out how to go for the next 5 years. He sells guns. His services are fixing, repairing, and making guns, that type of stuff. But he also does CCW. But we're also talking about doing like self-defense, that kind of stuff. The big win here would be we would put a country clubhouse on the property, and the members would have access to that. And it would be more like a golf country club, except for shooting.
Yeah. This reminds me of, I used to have a gentleman I worked with out in the East Bay, and they had something like this. It wasn't quite as robust in the offerings that you guys are thinking about. It was just north of San Francisco there somewhere. They would go duck hunting and do all that stuff there. Very similar. It sounded really cool. Like they had to buy into it, you know, kind of kept it only a certain number. And so it's kind of very exclusive and they could enjoy themselves on this property.
It's my lady.
Oh, dog. Go
Yeah, so obviously there's membership levels, right?
Yeah.
Being exclusive, silver, platinum, black card.
Awesome idea. And that area is great for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of money up there, and there's Hollywood, and you can bring up Hollywood people, and we would give access to the local jurisdictions. They would have access to their range, and we're even talking about bringing in members as low as $100 a month, where you have access to whatever range you want any day of the year, outside of certain events or what have you. And we'd only need, just to cover the basics, we would need 300 memberships. So not really worried about the monthly revenue coming in, because on top of that, CCW classes will bring in about 8 to 10 grand a week. You know, so it's not like we're trying to find the down payment of 50%. And like a developer, if you were a developer and I bought 100 acres of land and I wanted to put houses on it, there's a process you have to go through, the planning department, and you basically put out the little plat map saying this square is plat number 1, number 2, number 3, and all that. And you have the 100 units, you probably have, or 100 acres, you could probably have like anywhere from 600 to 800 houses put on that acreage. So you'd have to define everything else and say, these are the phases that we would go through. These are the houses that we're already planning. And as soon as that's entitled, the infrastructure can be put in, etc. I'm having him go through and kind of not really entitle it, but say, this is what the lay of the land is. This is where the ranges are going to be. This is going to be, this is where the apartments are going to be. This is where the clubhouse is going to be, that kind of stuff. So game plan for $100,000 a year, this is what you're going to get. This exclusivity and your personalized golf cart.
Personal spot for your golf cart. You can just park it on the range, shoot from your car.
Yep. You get a personal armorer, which means he goes up to the range with you. You get catered food. So if you're into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I was going to ask you, have you talked to your cousin about any of that? John the banker?
Yeah.
If he offered any strategies or solutions?
His answer was, we don't do land. Land in agriculture is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
I can call up, I probably have 60, 70 people on my list and say, I need a loan for this house right now. I can get one. Yeah. For land in agriculture, it's a totally different animal. We're looking at USDA, small business loans, grants, all this other stuff. And it's just, everything's very limited. But so we're looking at alternative locations to get started, but he's in love with this property. And it's a good piece of property. We walked it.
You got access to great parts of LA and get there no problem. So yeah, I think it'd be awesome.
Yep. 10 minutes away from the freeway.
Yeah.
Everything about it is freaking amazing.
Cool, man. I'm curious about what your thoughts are on the real estate market.
If you watch my daily videos, I don't expect you to, because
I don't get them all, but
yeah.
Check in here.
The last couple of weeks I've been talking about this coming up. I'm like, don't expect anything, because that rate is tied into short-term business, short-term credit, that kind of stuff, not long-term mortgages. However, it does affect it. A drop in the rate, we expect it to happen, but that drop happens a week before the testimony. And the day after, it went up like 1/10 of a point. But here's the thing that you have to remember is our supply is low. Our buyer pool is even lower. There are buyers out there, but buyers want to be picky and sellers want to be stubborn. And that's where you say, this is where we are with this market. Are we going to go down? Are we going to go up? And that's all determined by employment, by the economy, by the stock market, by everything, because it's a big house of cards. Healthcare credit, automotive, military. We're all tied into everything. And whether you like him or not, Trump is shaking stuff up, right? He's taking away all this aggregate spending. He just said something about all the money that we're giving away to different countries that's getting axed out. You know, he's doing all those deep dives into Minnesota and Detroit and all this stuff to find out where all that money's going. So all this money's getting tied up. Ultimately, what that's going to do is hurt the economy because people are spending money somehow, some way. And we knew that when he came on board, he said that the economy is going to hurt for a while until we figure this out and get this thing fixed. Not a fan of that, but it is what it is. But on the same side of that argument is I've been hoping and praying for a downturn in the housing market because it will reinvigorate the buyer market.
That's right.
For the last 25, 30 years, we've been a seller's market, and sellers are spoiled. I expect this much money for my house. If the market crashes, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, that's right. And same thing for equity markets. It does kind of rhyme in that, you know, there is a lot of reasoning out there to say that some kind of correction is due or even overdue, and some kind of pullback should be happening.
I'd love to say I want to see the market crash, but I know that would hurt as many people as when, you know, you lose out trying to buy a house or trying to make ends meet. So when there's a market crash, more people get unemployed, more people lose their savings, and more people get hurt. But I think we're very artificially inflated right now.
Well, and a healthy market is supposed to have those kind of pullbacks. It's just very much like a forest that doesn't go through controlled burns or natural burns. If it's kept from those burns, when it finally goes up, it's even bigger. Markets are very much similar. They need to have these natural kind of cycles to them. And when you keep it from having those natural cycles, it makes for explosive situations. Right.
Yeah, you know, we can blame California. And look, I'm no fan of Newsom either. Not a fan of Newsom, but I can tell you that California problems with the wildfires and the lack of, yes, it's our fault. It's California's fault that we're not taking care of our forests. I understand that. But it's also Oregon's fault, and it's also Washington's fault, and it's also Idaho's fault, and it's also British Columbia's fault. And Edmonton's fault. Everything on the West Coast is dry and it's not managed the way it needs to be because we're not doing those burns that we're supposed to be. And yes, it's our fault. Yes, it's Newsom's fault. But a bigger part of the problem is that we're not taking care of our forests. And it's sad. Because of that, our home insurance in certain areas, if you're in a fire zone, you can't get regular insurance. You have to go to Fair Plan. It costs you 3 times as much. Yeah. So that's just another tax that we have to pay as Californians or Americans or however you want to look at it because of poor management, poor bureaucracy, poor use of our high taxes.
Yeah, it is a problem. I think that's why I thought it was a perfect example, speaking of our experience in California and how that markets. When you don't let things naturally burn or at least do some controlled burnings, a lot of those things can happen. You don't manage it correctly, it makes for even bigger disasters. Which is what happened.
And same thing with our economy, right? If we don't do natural burns, normal burns, cycle expected burns, I want to say since 2016, I've been expecting the market to crash in the housing market. And all we've seen are plateaus. We've seen this, and then we go up. And now we're at 2025, and that is 2026. That means we're 2.5 cycles away from a big recession in the housing market. And that means that we're artificially inflated. However, when's it going to stop? What's going to be the card that breaks down the house of cards? Yeah. It's not just the housing market. It's not just finance. It's everything else.
Yeah, it'll make for an interesting next couple of years, and there'll be opportunities either way. So it's just, I think the takeaway is to pay attention and be in position to take advantage.
Keep your money in cash. Is that what you're saying? Take all my money out of your stuff?
No. Studies have proven over and over again that trying to time the market in that way is super hard. Very few numbers. The people who win that game versus the people who lose it. The house is definitely stacked against you. And just by selling the winners and buying the losers, which is contrary to what most people do. You sell the stuff that went up and you buy the stuff that goes down. It's very simple. We can complicate it by trying to get too crafty, I think. So, however, if we just consistently buy what goes up and sell what goes down, we will win. It's just exaggerated. When there's big market corrections, there's bigger discounts out there to go grab. Maybe not be as much to sell anymore, right? There'll be some losers out there who will go out of business for sure. And
what was that stock I told you to buy $500 worth of?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, sometimes stuff works out. At one point, though, it shot up. It would have been a good time to sell it, but it's just hard to know when.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. I'm like a cat chasing that laser every day. real estate. Oh, okay. And then I'm off doing something else. I don't have that time or bandwidth to be able to do that. And most people don't. And you can't time a market if you're doing that.
And the simple wealth, inevitable wealth is one way to go about it. And you can always have some money in another bucket going after bigger things, just like what you're doing. So things are spread out. You got different strategies doing different things.
It's scary too, because the market could turn tomorrow.
Yeah. That
money gets frozen up, and I'll get most or all of it back, but it gets tied up. And then I have to go through a foreclosure process and all that stuff. So it could be a pain in the butt. So this is my first one, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, almost end of the year. So what we'll be doing is a lot of tax loss harvesting in these investable accounts, retirement accounts that if you make money this year, you got to pay taxes on it this year. Basically brokerage accounts, investments accounts, right? These taxable accounts. And they're really like this, I would call them the real Swiss Army knife of financial products, only because you can do so much. You have so much more flexibility in a taxable investment account, which is one of the accounts you have. Because there's, even when you lose money, so to speak, or lose value in these accounts, there's an opportunity to help manage taxes. So we'll be selling stuff that went down in value and harvest the tax loss to help deduct off tax burdens. Use that money to buy some other stuff that'll.
Yeah, I'll take it all day long.
We'll be doing some of that stuff.
We'll see. You said next time you want to talk to a strategic financial guy, like an accountant of some sort.
Oh, yeah. I think we should bring on a CPA that's really good at future planning around taxes, as opposed to just past planning around taxes. That's what most, I wouldn't say most, I don't know if that's fair. A lot of, I'd say, tax professionals come into two different camps. One, they focus on what has happened. They don't do a whole lot of future planning. They just look at the history, organize it the way they think it needs to be organized, and then do the reporting without much foresight or foreplanning about, okay, what do we do going forward to get in front of it, if that makes sense. So a good tax professional is somebody who's doing that with you. They're not just taking in what has happened and looking at the history and reorganizing it to tell the story to Uncle Sam. They're also doing future planning. Okay, this is the step we got to do today so that tomorrow your burden will be this instead of that. So they're going to try to help bridge the gap between what you're doing and what you need to do.
When you're ready to have him come on, let me know.
But to be clear, they're not magicians, right? However, they're going to do a lot more around making sure that there's a plan and a strategy to help minimize as much as they can.
And get them to invest in this